Okay, so this is the 2024 Higher Level Maths Leaving Cert Paper 1, question 8. So in part A here we have a clothing company. It sells t-shirts. The daily sales of t-shirts over a 360-day period can be modeled using the following function t of x, where x goes from 0 to 360 and x is real. So t of x is x minus 240 over 60 cubed plus 70. Fill in the table below showing the value of t of x for each of the given values of x. Give each value correct to the nearest whole number. Two values have already been filled in. Okay, so all you've got to do then is just stick in the x values into the function, work out the y values. You can do this on your calculator or manually. I'll just do one here manually. I'm going to do t of 0, and that is equal to 0 minus 240 over 60. We've got to cube that and then add 70. So that's what you got to do to each of those x values. So when you do that, you get 6. So my first y value here is going to be 6. You then get 43. You will find that if you put in 120, you'll get 62. If you put in 180, you'll get 69. If you put in 240, you'll get 70. If you put in 300, you'll get 71. So that's the first part done. I've also graphed it. That was part B. So two fairly straightforward questions. This is what the graph will look like. Now, in part B here, the clothing company also sells scarves. The daily sales of scarves can be modeled using the following function s of t, which is a periodic function with a period of 365 days. So this is our function here, 21 plus 19 cos 2 pi t over 365. T is real, and it is the time in days. From the 1st of January 2024, T is positive, and 2 pi t over 365 is in radians. So they've graphed it here over 365. Work out the maximum and minimum daily sales of scarves according to S of t. You don't need to use differentiation. Okay, so we're going to look at our function here. I'll just write it down again. So we have S of t is equal to 21 plus 19 cosine 2 pi t over 365. Now really, if you look at this, you've got a constant here. That 21 is not going to change. This 19 is not going to change. The only thing that can change in this function is this part here, this cosine part. And you should know that the maximum that a cosine can be, the maximum can be 1 and the minimum can be minus 1 for cosine. So if we put in the maximum, if we put in a 1 here for cosine, that will maximize this function. So the maximum is going to be given by S of t is equal to 21 plus 19, because this will just become 1. And that'll give us 21, 31, 40. That'll give us 40 there. So the maximum that that function can be will be 40 scarves. Is it scarves we're talking about here? The daily scarves. So we want to work out the minimum now. So the minimum here S of t is going to be 21 plus 19 times minus 1. The minimum that cosine function, that part of the function can be, is minus 1. So that just becomes 21 minus 19, which is 2 scarves. And that's really it. So let's move on. A different function, c of t, can also be used to model the daily sales of scarves, where c of t is equal to s of t minus 2.4 plus 0.03 times t. Again, t is real, and it is the time in days from January the 1st, 2024. T is positive, and again, 2 pi t over 365 is in radians. Find the value of t for which s of t and c of t give the same number of daily sales. So we've just got to make these two functions equal. Now C of t is S of t minus 2.4 plus 0.03 t. That's C of t. We want that to be equal to S of t. So you can see here we can subtract S of t from both sides, and then we just get minus 2.4 plus 0.03 t is equal to 0. And then on the next line we can say 0.03 t is equal to 2.4, and then we just got to divide both sides by 0.03, and that will give us, let's see, 80 days. And that's it. That's all you got to do there. Let's have a look at part D. Oh yeah, part D I've just done out already here. The graphs J, K and L of three functions are shown below, and they're not to scale. One of these graphs shows the function C of t over a number of years, where C of t is equal to S of t minus 2.4 plus 0.03 t. Write down which graph you think it is and justify your answer. Well, it's not going to be this one here. It's not graph J, since C of t is not linear, since it contains a cosine element. So the cosine element is going to look something like this here. So, okay, so you've got S of t, which is our cosine function, I think, or cosine part of the function. So you've got S of t, which is this here. It contains a cosine element to it. And then what you're doing is you're adding this part here, 2.4 plus 0.3 t. Now this is going to vary, so as t increases, the y values, the C of t, is going to increase as well. So it's not just going to be a periodic function like this. The actual y values themselves will increase. So it's going to be this graph here. So what I'm saying here is that the value that we are adding to the trigonometric part of the function, i.e. this part here, this is what we're adding to the trig part, is increasing as t increases. So as t gets bigger and bigger and bigger, this whole thing here gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and we're adding that to the trig part of the function. So it's increasing as t increases. Therefore, the y values of the function will increase as in graph L. So the answer here is graph L. And that's it. Now there's a million different ways you can describe that, but this is just what I've written down anyway. Okay, so my answer there, you should really write down the answer in the exam. The answer is graph L. Okay, so let's look at the next part then. The derivative of C of t is given by C prime t, and that's equal to 0.03 minus 38 pi over 365 sine 2 pi t over 365. Find the value of t that gives the first local maximum of C, that is the first time that C prime t is equal to 0. Give your answer correct to the nearest day. Okay, so let's do that. So we've got to write down the function first. So we've got to take 0.03 minus 38 pi over 365 sine 2 pi t over 365. We want that to be equal to 0. So let's just solve this. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring this over to the other side. So that'll give me minus 38 pi over 365 sine 2 pi t over 365. And that's equal to minus 0.03. The next thing I've got to do is divide by this thing here on both sides. So that'll leave me with sine 2 pi t over 365. And when we divide those, we end up with 219 over 760 pi. Okay, so what we've got to do now is just do sine inverse of this thing here. So sine inverse of 219 over 760 pi. Now remember, your calculator needs to be in radians. So it's going to be 0.0918526178. Okay, so that'll give us our angle, if you like. And what that means really is that 2 pi t over 365 is equal to 0.09185261078. So we've just got to solve for t now. So what I'm going to do is multiply this by 365 and divide by 2 pi. That will give me 5.335 days. So it says give your answer to the nearest day. So to the nearest day, that's 5 days. Now this is during the 6th day, but it says give your answer to the nearest day, so that's going to be 5 days. And really that's it for this question.